What is going on? We are going to talk about Warhammer 40k, Warhammer in general, life in general, and if it is pay to win. It's a very interesting concept. It's much hated in all of probably everything. But so the idea is, or the definition of pay to win would be the person that spends more money gains a massive advantage and wins. This is very common, possibly invented in the mobile game market, but you could argue it is also in something like Magic the Gathering, I believe, where you could go on like eBay and overpay for like really rare cards that are overpowered or something for the game that are, long out of print. Now, the reason Warhammer is not pay to win is because all of the models and units are very easily available to everybody. There's no rare things. There's always the ability to convert and proxy. So you're not held back by, hard to find things that you have to pay for, by resellers. But you could argue that, an army that was, 20 Biovores and they're $40 a piece, well, if you say that was the best army, well, the money would keep some people from doing it. But I still don't think it's pay to win in the sense that anybody could still pretty easily afford and do that. It's just a matter of if it would even be, worth your money. Because at the end of the day, you have to decide what is worth your money in the hobby or anything you do. Now, there's one very specific way that Warhammer is pay to win, and it's luckily now it gets fixed via chapter approved and things like FAQs, and it's really even not that. But if you wanted to attempt to play to win, you would wait for a new Forge World unit to be released. And if it is aggressively pointed, the rules are going to be stupid because it's Forge World. And if it's aggressively pointed, it'll probably be overpowered for what it costs. It'll cost a lot of money. You'll buy them right away and try and take them to a tournament right away and win that event. But this is short-lived, so I wouldn't recommend this. I'm pretty sure people do this. An example would be, let's just say a new Eldar unit came out from Forge World, a month before LVO, and it's, overpowered good, then you will definitely see people that have rushed out, bought, paid extra to get them painted them themselves, whatever, just in an attempt to win the LVO. Now that would be an attempt at pay to win. I feel like it's very limited to Forge World units just because of their silliness. But, if you've watched the channel for a while, I'm not a big fan of the Forge World in the regular game. So, one thing that got me thinking about the subject is, well, first up, the wet palette is about $10. Okay? Now, this is pay to win in painting or in the hobby. It's very, very good to use a wet palette, and I think it improves your painting. Now, realistically, this is a piece of Tupperware with a sponge in it and can be made for like $2. I have one that I made over there. I wanted to pay $10 because I felt like this would be a better experience, and therefore I would be winning when using this, and it would make me paint better, or in hopes I would paint better. Then you get companies that launch on Kickstarter. This is a very recent one. They are selling like a $70 wet palette. Wow. that is really, really trying to appeal to people who want to pay to win, i.e., their wet palette cost way more money than a Tupperware or this one, which is which all I believe are based off of. I think they're like the company Masterson's Stay Wet palette. I think they're like the inventors of this. I'm not sure, but so if they're going to charge like $70 for this, which is $10, which is something you could easily make for $2, they want to appeal to the person that thinks they need to spend that much money to paint better. I see this a lot in miniature painting paintbrushes, and it's very, very familiar to me now, or I'm more knowledgeable on the subject, because I have a paintbrush, the Ghost paintbrush line, coming soon to Kickstarter in January. And I see other companies have targeted miniature painting hobbyists with these like super overpriced paintbrushes. And it's like the idea that you'll pay more money for the paintbrush because you want, deep down, you just want to be a better painter, and you think it's going to help if you buy the better paintbrush. But they're not probably better, they're just cost more. So it's a little interesting that brought me to the subject, and I was just thinking about, like, is Warhammer play to win, mobile apps, games in general. You could argue a lot of things in life are kind of pay to win. You know, if you had a good lawyer, you could pay an expensive lawyer to win a court case, for example. But one thing I found a little frustrating, or not frustrating, not disappointing maybe, that as somebody that cares a lot about miniature painting, and more so now in the last like 3 years or so than, you know, was mostly canvas painting, in art supplies, a small paintbrush is cheaper than a big paintbrush. The more hairs used, generally the price goes up. Now, in a paintbrush told or targeted at miniature painters, they seem to know you want the smaller ones, and therefore the smaller ones cost more money for what they're selling to you. They did not pay more money for those paintbrushes, I promise you this. I know now because I have launched, or I have manufactured a paintbrush line. I know for a fact they are just charging you because they know you want the smaller ones, so therefore they're going to raise the price. They might put them in a little wooden box. They might do these other little gimmicks. There's, you know, a million things, but I was thinking about the subject of pay to win, and it got me thinking about a lot of the things I see in the hobby, and I just want to say you do not have to pay to win or enjoy this hobby. So don't be fooled that these people are trying to overcharge you for products, or that's more towards people overcharging you for products. But also don't think that because you didn't have the money to buy that second unit of Swooping Hawks before your game this weekend doesn't mean you can't very much win at the hobby and enjoy yourself. And you don't pick up these units as you feel like it, or as you get paid, or maybe you get a couple boxes a year on your birthday and Christmas or something like that. But I just want you to know you don't need to pay to win for painting. I highly recommend some decent quality brushes, but for the majority of your work, you don't need a very expensive brush. And just another side note here. This brush is an Escoda Optimo. Razor sharp, super thin, fine point, size 0, Escoda Optimo Kolinsky sable, handmade in Barcelona. Escoda is my favorite paintbrush manufacturer. I think they're the best. They do not charge you extra because of brand name, but they are expensive. Maybe, I mean, they probably do charge you a little extra because of brand name, but they're not as expensive as, say, Winsor Newton, which is one of the biggest brand names in art supplies. Not the highest quality in art supplies, brand names. Maybe they're the highest quality. That's up to you to decide. But Escoda, handmade in Spain, super, super good quality paintbrushes for a very good price. Because if you go on, like, say, Blick.com or Dick Blick, Jerry's Artorama, these big retailers of art supplies, like that little size 0 brush is like $8. And people are talking about spending $30 on a Winsor Newton. Like, give me a break. That brush would paint you eyelashes on an ant. Or I don't know, that's kind of lame saying, but you get what I'm saying. That brush is as good as a paintbrush will ever be, and it's like $8 on, I think it was Dick Blick or Blick.com. The company's called Dick Blick, but I think the website's Blick.com. Point being, if another company is telling you they're better than that paintbrush and they're going to charge you $15, $20 for a size 0, because this is the one for miniature painting, they're, I'm not going to say dishonest, but they definitely are trying to take you for a little bit extra out of your wallet. Let's put it that way. So, that being said, the Ghost brush, which is the brush I got manufactured, holds a pretty good point. It's been holding a good point for the ones I've been testing for like a month now. This one I haven't used yet. They're nylon, aluminum, birch, pretty standard stuff. It's a synthetic hair. It probably over time the tip will probably start to curve. That is due to, as miniature painters, we often stab into little crevices and stuff, and that stab takes the hairs and bends them like that. So there's a little belt, stab, get the paint along the belt. Now your brush starts to do this over time. There are products like soaps and things that help prevent that. Another good way to do it is just constantly shape it. You can use your palm of your hand, which would be this, then that crease right there in your hand. You can shape it through that crease. I do it to the side or front of my mouth. And hopefully when you get this product, you don't feel like I overcharged you. I'm shooting for around $3 a paintbrush, which seems super fair in this hobby. And part of that is I want to simply just cost less than GW, Army Painter, obviously Winsor Newton, but I'm not talking about this is not a Klinsky Sable, so I'm not even challenging them yet. But as far as a synthetic hair brush, Game Gears, Bomb brushes, whatever, right? Mine will cost less than their brushes at about $3 a brush. I might have to do $4 a brush on Kickstarter first, and then be able to wholesale to retailers, and hopefully they'll charge around $3. And hopefully if you have a local store you would like them to carry this, you can have them contact me after the Kickstarter, because we're gonna have to do that first just to get everything up and running. But I don't know. This one's kind of a bit of a weird video. I don't want you to overpay to participate in something that's brought a lot of joy to me. I don't want you to overpay to think you need to pay extra to win, say, Warhammer 40K or Age of Sigmar. The rules are going to change over time, so just really focus on having a good time and try to find like-minded individuals that you'll have a good time with. Be a little bit wary of products that are super premium products that have a nice high price tag targeted specifically for your miniature painting. They know you want to paint these little miniatures, and they know you want that tiny brush, And I know they paid less for that tiny brush than they paid for the bigger size, but they're going to raise the price on you. And I just want you to be aware of that. So this is a little bit of a PSA, a little bit of a, I don't know, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man giving you some tips on maybe life tips, right? I don't know. Just don't think you have to pay to win any of this. And that's about it. I don't know. I knew this one was going to be weird. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please comment below. I try to respond to every comment. The only time I don't is if I somehow missed it. But I'm a person of the people, so I am super happy to, respond to any comments or criticisms. Please subscribe. We got a Kickstarter coming up in January. It might be like an October situation and be late January, depending on how much I can get these things in line. And we got our eBay store, which we will sell the brushes on as well after the Kickstarter. And I think that's about it. Oh, and also I played Necromunda this weekend, so look forward to some Necromunda content as far as like rambles. But please subscribe.